Hi, everybody. Welcome. I am so glad you're here with me today. We are carrying on with our intuitive series, and I've got Prema Lee Gurreri here from solutionary.com with me. So Prema Lee, it is so wonderful to have you here.
It is awesome to be here with you, Karen. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me to help boost up and start us off in this beginning of the year.
Yeah, 2017. Wow. I was talking to my husband the other day, and somebody said something. We were watching something. It was 2004, and the date was 2004. It's like, oh, to me, 2004 seems like a couple years ago, right? And it's like, no, it's like 13 years ago now. It's like, what? That just blows my mind. But anyways, again, I'm really glad that you're here with us today. And so today, in this series, what I'm talking about and exploring with people, and because I love working with intuitives, and so I, in looking at 2016, what everybody's just been through. A lot of people that I see and work with and talk to and Facebook with, it's just been a crazy year, and people are just flustered, not knowing what's happened, so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask you some questions about that, and then also what your thoughts are about 2017, because I think people are wondering also what's on the horizon. But before we even get there, tell me about your gifts. Tell me about when you knew, how you kind of came to knowing that you were intuitive, and I know you are a Vedic astrologer as well, and so just tell me about your journey with that.
Sure. So, as far back as I can remember, which I can actually remember pretty far back, I have been incredibly intuitive, and also most intuitives are pretty empathic as well. Mm-hmm. And my intuitive. Look, we're all intuitive, I believe, and I actually teach a lot of people to use their intuitive gifts, develop them, and also teach intuitives to get practical and know how to put really good boundaries around their energy so they can really channel it, make good use of it, and serve others with. But, when I look back at my childhood, there was times where it looked like I was maybe having an anxiety attack. Not that anyone ever knew, but I would get stopped dead in my tracks just because I was so sensitive and so much was happening. And I would just get like downloads, and I don't mean like seeing huge visions or anything, but I just meant like so much information was coming in that my eye and my brain couldn't say exactly where it came from. And so I just had this deep relationship with nature. I had a grandmother who was very creative and really nurtured that. And I had learned a lot from her because she just really supported me in just trusting my own, what I call now my own soul's instincts. And I really appreciate that. And my mom and my dad were both pretty, I want to say, do-it-yourselfers. They always kind of believed they didn't have a lot of money, but they could do whatever they wanted to. And they both were intuitive in their own way. But my intuitive abilities kind of freaked my mom out because she was not as sensitive as I was. Mm-hmm. And it didn't make a lot of sense to her. At all. So, but one of the things happened to me, which I know has happened to a lot of intuitives, or let's say everybody's an intuitive, but people who have their intuition awake when they're younger, is that I had to kind of stuff it and keep it in a box. And there was only certain times that it was safe to bring it out. And then it was really inconvenient when it sort of just popped out of the box.
Right.
So I had to learn to manage it. And life put me through a series of some people might say were, really challenging experiences pretty young in life, which always pointed me towards relying on the divine, God, praying, asking for information or help beyond, there was no adults around giving me a hand at the time. And that really taught me to have this self-reliance that went beyond the self.
Right.
This reliance of, really relying on the universe, really relying on the divine. And it was rough at times, but it really cultured me from a very young age to trust deeply in this intrinsic support that I believe and feel the universe does have and has our back. We just need to get in alignment with that.
Sure. Yeah.
So, through my journey, I got into metaphysics, and I was super practical on one hand. I could do anything practical. And on the other hand, I was super metaphysical. And I had a yoga center, taught yoga, because I realized under the guise of being a yoga teacher, I could teach absolutely anything that I was called to teach, because people would always come to me at whatever capacity to help them problem solve, to get deeper into things. And I was always tapping into their energy, not even knowing it when I was younger,
Sure.
and collaborating to help find the best solution, and then teaching them how to actually be brave enough and courageous enough to trust their deeper knowing. Being very turned on to the Eastern tradition and yoga, and I actually sort of came up with my own take on a very heart-centered style of yoga that I taught and trained teachers in. But Vedic astrology was always in the periphery. And then at one point, my teacher just said to me, "You need to do this. You're wired up for this." And when I opened that door, it's like I just consumed I was ravenous, and just like, when you've ever read about something that it feels like you've always known about, but it's so incredibly interesting to you. And I know all of you have had some kind of experience like that. It was like it was just reactivating something that was really wired within me. And I started to really see how looking at what I call your soul blueprint, your Vedic astrology chart, that I could help people with their soul choices at a whole different level than I was doing as just with my intuitive abilities.
Right.
Because there's so many different lenses of the crystal to look through, so to speak. And it's just an amazing, amazing scientific tool that you have to bring an art to be able to interpret. And my intention is always to serve people in allowing them to really align with the best of themselves, which has brought me to a place of creating a whole body of work that I call your sacred wealth code, to help people step into their divine gifts, know what they are, move past their challenges, and really embody them. Because imagine a world where we're all really embodying and giving our divine gifts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what the world needs more than ever.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Well, so, 2016, people, that I have talked to, and clients, people, there's, the Facebook, everywhere you kind of go, there's people just confused about what has just happened in 2016, and just all the upheavals and changes and shifts that were unexpected. And so, and I think even for me, it's like I have I'm also intuitive, and I've tapped into that. And so when I'm wrong, it's mind blowing. It's like, really? And it's not that I don't ever think that I'm wrong. It's just that there's some things you just think are so absolutely, this is just a done deal. And it's just when you so totally get it wrong, and then see so many other people so totally get things wrong, get the same thing wrong. That was just odd. So do you have any suggestions or any thoughts about that?
And it first brings up a quote that I so love that they used in the movie The Marigold Hotel. He'd say, well, if it's not all right, it isn't over yet. Because when it's, in the end, it'll all be all right. So it's not the end if it isn't over yet.
Sure,
so
right, yeah.
Everybody remember, we're in process still. And divine timing is Kairos time. It's circuitive. It's not a straight path. And Chronos time is what we want here on, in 3D reality here on the earth. And I believe that, all of us is present, or lack of presence that we have, are on a journey to gather up the pieces of ourselves maybe that we forgot, but collectively we're all tapped into that pool together. Mm-hmm. And there's some levels that we can only move as fast as the whole pool, the whole body of us is willing to go. And then there's the leaders of us. So let me slice that all up. I'm going to actually take a look from the Vedic astrology perspective first to shed some light on that.
Sure.
And then Karen and I, I'm sure, will play with that.
Sure.
So let's remember I'm not going to go all into like why Vedic astrology is different than Western astrology. We look at time differently.
Mm-hmm.
We calculate the first house of the chart differently, and where the first sign of Aries starts, because we're looking, we all use the same signs, but there's the tropical zodiac and the sidereal zodiac, and it's actually looking at the zodiac from a different perspective. And this is the astrology of India, and we look at it from the sidereal zodiac. So in Vedic astrology, a couple of things that were up last year that were really big, which was Jupiter was in alignment with the nodes of the moon. And what that means is all the eclipses that were happening in Vedic astrology in Leo and Aquarius, those eclipses up until August of 2017 were involved with the eclipse pattern. So the eclipse pattern is always in two constellations directly aspecting each other for a 1.5 year period of time. And they're asking all of us on a personal level, wherever that hits us personally, and collectively for what those constellations really stand for, they're agitating those parts of life. And I call one material wealth and one spiritual wealth, because the south node of the moon will ask you to relinquish anything that takes you from your soul path, and collectively too. It's about liberation. But liberation isn't how much of this can I take with me. It's what can I let go and recognize the freedom that I have within, the liberation that I have in every single moment. But sometimes we experience what the ego looks at as loss when we're asked to let go of something. And where Rahu, the north node of the moon, tends to entangle us in the physical world, in the material world, which can be really creative energy. It can bring new opportunities and new people, again, depending on how it aspects you. But it's in Leo. So the way it was aspecting, and it's actually still there, it's just not with Jupiter right now. And we'll be there through the last eclipses in July, and then it'll be moving on. So leadership, Leo, these are our leaders. And of course, this is the year, we also had a presidential election. And this sort of, there's drama, there's delusion, there's this distorting of reality that happens with that. And we've had that around our leadership.
Right.
There's this sort of over calculating and over exaggeration that happens with with Rahu, the north node of the moon, and it's like a storm is happening there. So where these eclipses are, it agitates those areas of life. Now, agitating, think about going through a washing machine. We like to put the clothes in there. They look like they came out, like for one hell of a ride. When we pull them out of there, they need, to get fluffed up a bit, but it does the job at shaking out what's not serving anymore.
Yeah.
But in these, but where this eclipse pattern has been, and especially with Jupiter, which is really our greater vision, it is our knowledge, it's really one of the Brahmanic planets of spirituality, and really what we want for the good of everyone, was involved with Rahu, one of the bad boys, with all that drama, all that. So we didn't have the best aspects for the truth.
Right.
No, we did also have it. A combination around the truth, which I'll tell you about in a moment.
Sure.
Truth was distorted.
Right.
And so then I always believe that whatever we go through, and think about this personally, if you thought that whatever you go through in life, whether it was just the most amazing experience, like meeting the love of your life, or, having your business take off beyond what you ever imagined, or, losing the love of your life and losing all the money you have. If you thought of everything or saw it, that anything you went through there's something good in that for you. Mm-hmm. And that you took the stance of, okay, what's this good for? What is this shitty time good for? What is this amazing time good for?
Right.
There's always nuggets of goodness in everything.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to invite everybody to just shift around. And I know, first of all, you have to deal with whatever heartache you have coming from, and disappointment. But what is this good for? And I think collectively, on some level, that we are seeing, and this isn't just leadership in the United States, we're seeing this across the board, across the board. We're seeing a distortion in what some of us want in leadership. And also, it's reflecting back to us who we need to be. Not that we're being what is in leadership, but we have to actually that's why I'm so passionate about, like, everyone needs to be like stepping out with their brilliance. I don't care if that's just in your neighborhood or if that's in your, on a global level. But there's been too much sitting on the sidelines
Mm-hmm.
and too much brilliance sitting on the sidelines,
right,
and too much knowledge sitting on the sidelines. And so now what's come up is some things that are making some of us feel really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been in the shadows, so that's got to come into the light. So if this is not my favorite pathway for it to come into the light,
yeah,
but it's in the light now, right? It's in
right.
the spotlight. Now let's do something about it. This is energy going on underneath the surface that's keeping the wave of all of us moving in the direction that some of us would like to move in. So I'm going to just couch that for just a moment and then talk about truth or consequences. So that was an unfortunate, that was a challenging aspect to have. But you know what? I trust that we're all going to find the good in it, and it's mobilized people at a level we haven't been mobilized. We thought we were mobilized before.
Sure.
And now it's mobilizing us at a whole nother level. So we also have had the planet of truth or consequences, which is Saturn, and Mars, which is really a Kshatriya, a warrior type planet, which can be very much the honorable warrior, but also can also be very much of a martial and destructive energy. Those two planets are very challenging planets. One of them, Mars, wants everything done yesterday. Thank you very much. And Saturn's like, whoa, we are going to take this at a very slow go. Saturn's of the people, Mars is for the self. So we've had these two push-pull energies, and they, over all of 2016, had really, from February of 2016, had been together in the constellation of Scorpio. And in a water constellation, they were pushing and pulling on each other. So the truth that needed to come out, some of it has come out, but that's also been a bit stifled. And there's been a lot of frustration because Mars hasn't been able to move at the level. It's also our passion. It's also our productivity. It's also, that a leadership capacity as well, and really that honorable warrior, but it's been kind of playing in the wrong area. So those planets were together. They came apart in September, and then in November went right back together. They've been doing this dance, and at the end of this month, they're done with the dance. Thank you very much. We should see some frustration really lift for a lot of people. We're going to see Saturn move into Sagittarius, which really is so much about justice and law and order and spiritual teaching and hierarchy and knowledge. So we're going to see the truth come out in a different way where it's really felt quite stifled. And we won't have this push-pull we've been having so much in 2016.
Okay. So the truth will come out. I'm just writing that down. So for the masses, again, these masses that have been confused by all of this, that will be, would you say it would be pleasing, or it would be like, okay, I get it now. This makes sense now. Is that...
So let me add something else in that's going to help tremendously. So when I say the challenging planets, these are planets that are not planets of light. Okay? They're not as bright. Now, when we have more light, we can make more choices. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a dark room and you know the door you came in, you probably could find the door to get out, right? That leaves you one choice. Maybe there's a window, you could grope around for it. If the lights are on, you could see every which way to come in and out of that room.
Right.
So we have some beautiful aspects coming up that are shedding the light in 2017, starting at the end of, right here on the 27th of January, we have Venus, there's two Brahmanic planets. We have Venus and Jupiter. They're the planets of the most light. And we have Venus moving into a place of exaltation in Pisces, where it is not only the strongest, and the brightest, and it's really social, and it cares about relationship and its people and its connectivity and its creativity and artistry as well. In my archetypal system, it is the artist. It is the great connector. It's also the muse. It's connected to the metaphysical. Directly aspecting Jupiter, which is now in Virgo, which is bringing a Brahmanic nature, a a higher consciousness to the practicality of Jupiter. We're going to see great breakthroughs this year in healing and in health and in some of the technologies that have been trying to get to market to really help with some of the diseases we have on the planet. We're also seeing more technology. That's not going to stop. That's all the practicality of Jupiter. But these two planets are like shining floodlights on each other, starting here at the end of January all the way through the end of May. Now that's for everybody in your chart and for the chart of every country. That is a beautiful light-filled aspect that everybody is going to be under. So there is going to be so much more light, and both of these great spiritual and Brahmanic and planets of higher morals and connectivity and humanity are strong and are going to support each other. It's like they're on the same team, they're supporting each other, and that's happening for each and every one of us collectively too. So we'll be able to see a whole lot more choices than we have before, and it's easier to see the truth in the light than it is in the dark as well.
Sure. I'm just getting writing this down, and so there's hope.
There's more than hope.
Okay, because I think that's, again, as I can't even remember a time ever where I've woken up so many times in the middle of the night and being very empathic and just picking up on this energy and just like, where is this coming from? And realizing, I mean, I've come to realize now is, I'll ask what percentage of this is mine. It's not like zero, right? So it's like, okay, I'm picking up on these wavelengths, that are traveling through, and people are feeling this stuff, and it's like kind of almost like it's like a panic, or it's a tremendous amounts of fear. And again, we're coming up to the inauguration of Trump in a few days, and just the chaos. And that was the word that came to mind to me this morning. It was like, this is just all chaos. And I know for myself, and the people I work with, when you encounter chaos, it's time to step back and just come back into yourself, into the present, and know your own truth, and know that this is, that's sometimes it's just done as a strategy. Sometimes it's just like, that Tasmanian devil, of somebody, some personality that's coming through, but there's just there's this fear, or this feeling of fear. And so it just feels like, oh my God, what is the world going to blow up now?
Well, let's talk about that. There's three things I want to cover here: Trump, chaos, the fear you're talking about, and let's talk about managing our energy. And then I'll remind me, because there's a whole other beautiful aspect coming in to play with the third planet of light, to play with the other two planets. And we don't have Mars and Saturn as of the end of this month together, really holding things back and frustrating things. So that's also really good. So I'm not a doomsdayer. I'm very, very practical. And the fact is people need to use what I call spiritual protection. You actually, and especially those of us who are aware of our sensitivity, you need to not plug into energy that isn't going to support you. Mm-hmm. And the more empathic you are, the easier it is to just be tapped into that, which also means that people who are projecting fear, and let's say on a larger scale, with like what you're talking about,
right?
And that's done a lot of ways, right? I mean, that's done through the media. That's done a lot of ways.
Sure.
There's the wizard behind the curtain. There's up to many things. Now, you don't want to open yourself to that energy, because you're going to be running that energy, and it's going to be detrimental. And it actually, part of I want to say, if there was a strategy to that energy, would be to knock those sensitives off. Those of us who are more open to the light, knock us off center. Okay. So instead of that, you want to practice what I call your spiritual protection, which, there's lots of different ways to do that. First of all, just being aware and it's absolutely important to be aware of what is actually happening, but you don't have to plug into it. So I can say, okay, there is a light socket over on the other side of my room here, and but I don't have to go put my, plug anything into it right now. I'm aware that it's there in the state that it's in.
Right.
Okay. But you have to be careful. Those of you who are very aware of your sensitivities, don't plug in consciously, and notice where you are unconsciously. I teach people to unplug from energies that are not supporting them and make sure they're plugged into whatever their interpretation is of the divine, and that energy is between you and everything else.
Right.
We can do this by putting a protective bubble around ourselves of positivity. We can do this by bringing, there's elements we can bring in physical reality to help with protection. But just being aware, it's like you don't want to get tapped for your energy unconsciously and have it be siphoned off somewhere else.
Right.
And that's what happens, basically.
Sure.
So when you notice you are in the fear, like you said, like find out if it's yours or not. If it's yours, here's the thing about fear, false evidence appearing real. If it's really yours, you don't like sit and brew in it. Usually we know exactly what to do if something triggers our real fear. Sure. We just take it out and we know what to do. We step back on the curb out of the middle of the street. We know who to say no to, who to call, we know what to do.
Right.
So if you're in the fear zone, let's just call it that, get out. You don't have to stay there.
Right.
And that's not being Pollyanna or anything else. You're aware, but you don't have to stand in that energy because you actually feed it. And then you end up very, very drained.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
So anybody's disappointment about how things have been going, it has been weird and it has been chaotic and it has been frustrating and it has floored many of us. But now it's like, okay, what part do I need to play in order to move things in the direction that I want to move them? Because we do know that it takes less of us fully aligned to actually tip the scales.
Right.
But we have to stay fully aligned.
Right.
And I think that's really the challenge we're up against. But those of us who are aware of it have asked for that.
Right. Right. Okay. I really like that. So there was something else that was coming up for me there. Yeah, so that was it. It's because I've seen some people who have said, it's kind of like, go back into your little bubble. This can't hurt you. You step back, come into the present, but and come back to your center. But it's almost like, don't pay attention to what's going on out there. And I think that for me, that doesn't seem practical.
I hear you. It doesn't.
No, because to me, it's just like, to me, there's just, you have to follow that energy. You have to follow an energy. Well, you should have to follow an energy that is speaking to you and, that is light to you, or it just feels like it's compelling to you. And so if there's, and so not everybody's going to be compelled to act or to take action or feel like they want to get involved in things. And I get that, when you, take your energy or shift your energy away from something, you're not feeding it, right? So that's a positive thing. But on the other hand, that the feeling or the statement that, sit in your bubble and it'll all go away. That just
it's not going to go away like that.
No,
it's not. Let's just be real. It's not. It's not going to all go away.
Right.
And that points back to what I was just talking about. Put yourself in as much of your high frequency, it's actually low frequency, but most people think of it as high frequency alignment as possible. And what is your part in this?
Right.
What is your part to play? What is your work to do in the world? What a brilliance are you sitting on that really, you need to get out of your comfort zone and go ahead and give. And maybe maybe you're in the place where you know, well, actually you've done a lot and right now it's time for you to take that reprieve. Just be really honest with yourself wherever you're at. We don't want to feed the monster, right? We want to stay, I believe we should stay aware of what's going,
Yes.
and stay aligned with what we want, whether that is through prayer, the work you do, where you funnel your money. There's many, many different ways to do that. But if each and every one of us gets really squeaky clean in our alignment, in our personal alignment, and that means that we're touching the sphere of who we interact with and what we interact with, and, you know, in a very pristine way, and then noticing when we're unconscious and writing that, because that's part of this reality and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just part of the process.
Right.
And then, you know, that ripple effect of all of us doing that. But here's the thing is you can't say, okay, yeah, I'm in alignment and spend your money in the wrong place.
Sure.
You know, or I shouldn't say wrong, but spend your money in a place that's not in alignment.
Right.
You know, or what I'm seeing so much of is also, there's people out there teaching and with a lot of following of wonderful things. But I'm looking at them and they're not very much in alignment. So really look at who you're following,
right?
Who you're calling your teacher, because I think people have gotten lazy.
Sure.
And I think it's time for everybody to continue, you know, to wake up. I think that's what we're here to do.
Sure. Right. Right.
And the biggest part of it to me is choose what's really your mission. Because again, it really doesn't matter. And I look at this all the time and help people understand, like, what is your mission? You know, what is your purpose? What are those, the gifts that you have that really will align you with the life that you want, which everyone that I do this with, there is a bigger mission that is beautiful and that affects the rest of the world in a really beautiful way if we actually step into it. Right. So I think for more than anything, it's a call, it's really a call to, like, okay, like, you know, give your gifts, really give your gifts.
Right.
So we also have in Mercury, which is the messenger, which is the communicator, which is also the merchant. Mercury is going to line up with the other two benefic planets. So this is called a Saraswati Yoga in Vedic Astrology, and that'll happen on March 11th through the end of March. And so then we'll have the three planets of light during that time, all creating this, a huge amount of light for, you know, and that's going to, again, this is all the best planets, all the planets of light for collectively, this is a wonderful thing. And then this individually hits you in certain areas of life. So with more light, we've got more wind in our wings, so to speak. And we also have, it's an opportune time. We're going to see new breakthroughs come through during that time. Can we flip something that has been, I want to say, in the making energetically for a long time overnight? Not necessarily, but it is, you know, everybody making better choices and also shedding the light on what needs to be brought into the light, you know, what's being hidden, what's the truth that's not being told.
Right.
All of that needs to come out in whatever little piece and whatever big piece.
Right.
And this is a really amazing year for that to happen.
Right. Great. Awesome. Well, awesome. So, as kind of a wind down, or what would you say? And I think you've heard it. You've said a number of things, but what message would you leave people to go into 2017 with? You know, what are their next steps?
Yeah. So I would say that look at 2016, and first of all, look how far you came in 2016, even if at the end of 2016 things didn't feel like you were where you wanted to be or collectively were. So first of all, gather up the goodness, okay? And look at 2017, really be clear and purposeful. Mm-hmm. If you have been shunning your purpose in any way, and everything, you know, from what we eat has a purpose to the work we're doing in the world has a purpose, but get really clear on what your purpose is and the part of your purpose that you're going to move forward this year, because that's a really opportune time to do that. Get really honest with yourself on what it's time for you to let go of, maybe that you haven't been willing to, and get the help to do that so that you get cleared out. One of the things that tends to happen is when we're in remorse about, the things that have happened, we tend to go into numbing out type behaviors. So
Right.
get clear with yourself on that. But like with all my clients, we have mapped out the year, not from a place of all the nitty gritty, but here's your business, here's your purpose, here's your movement in the world. In this year, this is where I want to go with it. Here are these beautiful times where I like to say there's more grace in your wings, and I'm going to run like crazy during those times. There's times also where we're going to, make sure that we pull our energy in a little bit. But there's nothing to wait for.
Right.
That's the thing is that there's nothing to wait for, and anything you want to be different, what can you do to help it actually be different?
Right.
We have to, it's like I always tell parents, and I have 4 kids, you have to parent from your feet, not from your seat,
Right. Yeah.
So we have to get off the sidelines and really trust where your passion goes, where you actually really want to, infuse your energy. And
Right.
don't think that, somebody else is doing that.
Right.
Or somebody else wrote that book, or no, what you have to say, what's coming through you actually really, really matters.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Well, thank you. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Prema. That was all very uplifting, and that's great because, again, there's this trepidation, and I think people are just a little skittish. So it's good to know that there are these, this light and these shifts and changes that will bring that light, and to people into what's next, and that there's that, following your path and following what is what your mission is and your purpose is this is a time to do it. Don't have to wait.
It's always the time, but this is the time. And remember to unplug from what's not in alignment with what is right and true for you and where you collectively want us to go. You have to support that on every level.
Sure. Okay.
And get the help you need with whatever healing you have to do, because this is bringing up healing for everyone. Right. So get the support you need and take those reprieves to do that. Right.
Yeah. That's great advice. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So tell us, how can people work with you? How can they get in touch with you? Because I think, I think there's just this energy around you that is very positive and very cool. So how do people get in touch with you?
So you get in touch with me through my website, Solutionary, SOULUTIONARY.com, or Prema Lee or Prema @Solutionary. And, I have several levels of programs. I have a book coming out in March, Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlock Your Soul Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. This is where your purpose and prosperity intersects. And so there's a whole body of work that I have that I help people to step into and really understand what wealth is truly for them and where their true gifts are, and help them to actually step into, whether that's building the business, writing the book, creating that foundation, whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
And so when I do that privately, I do that in groups. And I also have a new program that's just launching in February, the Sacred Wealth Circle, which is sort of an entry level of really learning how to navigate by your divine gifts,
right,
and what they are and how to actually embody them and navigate by them, because that's what I'm so incredibly passionate. And yes, people ask me, do you do a reading? I do. I call it your soul success map because I always bring it down to the practical. And I do that in some different formats with people, and that's all on my website.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay. So thank you. And thank you again for all of you for joining us here today. I'm going to have links on our website, thelawofattractiontips.com. You can go to episode 78, I believe this is. And so all the notes and all the links to Prema's information will be there. And this is, and I'm excited about your book, Prema.
Thank you. I am too.
On that. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.